To say that Neil Gaiman was ahead of his time would kind of be an understatement. Maybe to say that would actually be wrong in some way. Was he ahead of his time? Or will his stories, like his characters, be endless? Now, I want to take a look at Sandman through empathy, a skill kind of lost upon our divided world. Neil Gaiman once said, "None of us exist in a world that is the same world that the rest of us live in. The world that's important is the one behind each of our eyes, which is something that none of us can access." Not only is that relevant through Morpheus, but it also uses storytelling as a tool to teach empathy, to tell stories of larger-than-life people in situations we could never come across, but still manage to make them relevant to what we come across in the span of our life. Now, talking a little off script, I do want to say that Sandman is one of the best closed stories that I have ever read. If you have yet to read it, it is definitely something you should check out. It is a complete story and is absolutely some of the best writing in comics, if not the best writing in comics you will ever come across. But as compared to movies, comics leaves a lot open for interpretation. We have to fill in those blanks. We can expand upon the dialogue or compel the story forward. And Gaiman clearly plays off of this, leaving much open to reader interpretation. No two interpretations will be the same. But for this video, I want to focus on a very few select characters. 3 characters, actually. Such is the character of Desire. Desire is the sister brother of Morpheus, known only to be something and nothing at the same time. Desire was a character without a label who would now likely be seen as non-binary. Desire is everything you wish for and everything you hate all in one. But learning about desire, he or she, makes you grow to understand. Now, not necessarily why they do, but what they do. They yearn for acceptance in a way, and in the endless and in abroad. And we are all taught empathy, the idea of not knowing one's identity, maybe acting out, and learning who we truly are. And then we have the character of Rainy, or Element Girl, a long forgotten hero of a bygone era. Rainy, a character in hiding due to her mutated face with basically sunken in eyes and green hair, and a body made from different elements of the world. Rainy is a character stuck, alone, afraid, and anxious, scared of open doors, scared when the phone rings, waiting to end it all because she touched the orb of Ra. Rainy is embarrassed in front of her male agent at the company, even through a phone call, and her female friends still working for the company. This is when Death tells her to appeal to the male sun god of Ra, and she finally gets her suicidal wish. This story is absolutely a critique on female characterization in a male-dominated society. Women are often victimized in comics, and this is exactly what happens to Rainy. She is a victim of the sun god, and he is her oppressor and her freedom. Trapped in this endless cycle of Stockholm Syndrome. But that is not where it ends. We also have commentary on female beauty standards. The story reads that once a woman's youthful looks are gone, so is her usefulness. And eventually, she'll be abandoned by society. But this is true if we flip the character as well. If we made Rainy male, it would play out the same. And the idea that we all suffer is at its core. We are all stuck from time to time, hopeless, looking for that easy way out. And in Rainy's case, she actually takes it. However, that is not to mention that I think masculine beauty standards are nearly as rigid as feminine. But the idea of depression is universal. And now is when I give you a warning. Yeah, I think it's about time. The rest of this video, if you are under the age of 18, goodbye. And any victims of sexual assault, such as the character of Calliope. And this is the story that I have a hard time with every single time I read it. So the Me Too era, it was relatively recent, right? No one can argue with that. Born out of an era of women wanting men to be held accountable for their injustices on women. And though it had some bad actors, the general idea was accountability and justice. Calliope is a muse that presides over eloquence and poetry in ancient Greek culture. It begins with Richard Maddock makes a deal with Mr. Fry, who has held Calliope against her will for nearly 60 years, but Richard doesn't free her. Richard does the same. Richard continues the cycle of rape and abuse and reaps the reward because by raping Calliope, he is able to write more books, sell more screenplays, even direct more films, becoming rich and famous all off the back of Calliope. All ideas stolen from her through repeated rape and torture. This dismantles the muse-artist relationship and plays on the fact that society values male genius over female safety. At one point, we even see Richard call himself a feminist writer. Really? Okay. But it's an echo that kind of remains true today. Eventually, Calliope is saved by Morpheus, bringing back the commentary that both men and women can experience abuse and bond in shared trauma, even if the abuse style is different. If you remember, in the beginning of Sandman, Morpheus is held against his will and trapped till he is eventually freed, and we get the beginning of our story. But Calliope is overtly feminist in storytelling through most of it. It's a critique on a male-driven society and a male-driven power and privilege over women through abuse, violence, and sexual assault. But just like the previous story with Rainy, Gaiman drives it home and brings it back to a universal storytelling setting. Whereas before, depression was universal, so is abuse. Neil Gaiman has an ability to weave fantasy, fairy tales, different mythologies, and literature into his storytelling. We didn't even touch upon Shakespeare. Maybe next video. But at the end of the day, most of these stories are universal because storytelling is subjective. And at times, themes within it are all universal. Sandman is one of the most influential comic books of all time, second to maybe, possibly, probably not, but maybe Watchmen. We are all dreamers, and if you don't, at least you've always got the fat pigeons. Let me know what you guys think. I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.